This is a reflection on Our Lady of the Flowers by Jean Genet, and it's from a few sections in the beginning by Sartre in the introduction. Unable to read what he writes, Genet empowers the others to carry on for him. How could it be otherwise? They were already present in the heart of the word, hearers and speakers, awaiting their turn. It was another who spoke those words which were uttered in the absolute. It was to others that Genet dedicated these blasphemies, which were addressed to the absolute. What others? Certainly not the prisoners in the neighboring cells who are singing and dreaming and fondling themselves in their melancholy solitude. How could he hope for a moment to scandalize these brothers in misery? But long before, he had been taken by surprise and singled out by men. Later, when he became a thief, he danced before invisible eyes in empty apartments. Is it not to this same omnipresent and fictive public that he is going to dedicate his solitary pleasures? The just, they are his public. It is they whom he is taunting, by whom he wants to be condemned. He provokes outraged voyeurs in order to take his pleasure in a state of shame and defiance. Thus far, there is no art. Writing is an erotic device. The imaginary gaze of the gentle reader has no function other than to give the word a new and strange consistency. The reader is not an end, he is a means, an instrument that dulls the pleasure. In short, a voyeur despite himself. Genet is not yet speaking to us. He is talking to himself, the wanting to be heard. Intent on his pleasure, he does not so much as glance at us, as though his monologue is secretly meant for us. It is for us as witnesses, not as participants. We shall have the strange feeling that we are intruders, and that nevertheless our expected gaze will, in running over the words on the page, be caressing Genet physically. He has just discovered his public, and we shall see that he will be faithful to it. A real public? An imaginary public? Does Genet write without expecting to be read? Is he already thinking of publishing? I imagine that he himself does not know. As a thief, he streamed with light, wanted to be caught, to end in a blaze of glory, and at the same time frightened to death, did all he could to elude the cops. It is in the same state of mind that he starts to write. A dream public, dream orgies, dream speeches. But when the dream word is written down, it becomes a true word. Divine, writes Genet, sat down and asked for tea. That is all that is needed to generate an event in the world, and this event is not the materialization of Divine, who remains where she is, in Genet's head or around his body, but quite simply the appearance of letters on paper, a general and objective result of an activity. Genet wanted to give his dream characters a kind of presence. He failed, but the dream itself, as signification, is present on the sheet in person. The sentence is impregnated with an event of the mind and reflects it. Whereupon Genet ceases to feel. He knows that he did feel. Let us recall little Cullifroy's reverie that was condensed into the single word sons, which he uttered in the presence of a real listener. Genet immediately observes it was the word poem that fell from the vision and began to petrify it. He has also said of Divine that it was necessary that she never formulate her thoughts aloud for herself. Doubtless there had been times when she had said to herself aloud, "I'm just a foolish girl," but having felt this, she felt it no longer, and in saying it, she no longer thought it. When confronted with the words that were uttered, she thinks that she thought it. She reflects upon herself, and she who reflects is no longer she who experienced. A pure divine gazes at herself in the mirror of language. Similarly with Genet, while writing, he has eyes only for Divine, but as soon as the ink is dry, he ceases to see her. He sees his own thought. He wanted to see Divine sitting down and asking for tea. A metamorphosis takes place beneath his pen, and he sees himself thinking that Divine is sitting down. This mystifying transformation is the exact counterpart of that which led him to his semi-madness. Formerly, he wanted to act, and all his acts changed into gestures. Now he wants to make a gesture to brave an imaginary public, and an act is reflected in the signs he has traced. I wrote that. Has he thus awakened at last? In one sense, he has, but in another, he is still dreaming, steeped in his excitement, tangled up in his images. A curious kind of thinking indeed. A thinking that becomes hallucinated, reflects upon its hallucinations, recognizes them as such and frees itself from them, only to fall again into the trap of a delirium that extends to its reflection. It envelops its madness in a lucid gaze that disarms it, and its lucidity is in turn enveloped and disarmed by madness. The dream is at the core of the awakening, and the awakening is snugly embedded in the dream.